This is Wickett on Wisconsin. My name's Mike Wickett. After 10 years in Milwaukee talking sports, I took a bit of a break, but now I'm back and here to talk about the Packers, the Bucks, the Brewers, and more with you. And now inside the Koss Headphone Studios, this is Wickett on Wisconsin with me, Mike Wickett.
Well, I am glad to have you right now. I am happy to have you right now. And it feels good to have the NFL back right now. And it especially feels good to have the NFL back right now, I think, if you're a Green Bay Packers fan and you just watched the 43-34 win over the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, you got to be feeling pretty darn good right about now, I would say, if you're a Green Bay Packers fan, because that was... I don't want to say it was unexpected, but it was really unexpected to see Green Bay go to Minnesota, and we're going to talk about home court advantage for sure, home field advantage for sure, but we got to talk about going to Minnesota and coming away with that victory because my, oh my, that was an ass-kicking. I don't care if it's only a 9-point difference. That was an ass-kicking. There was never a point in that fourth quarter where I was worried about Kirk Cousins and Minnesota coming back, ever. Ever. I did not think that was going to be a worry for your Green Bay Packers. All right, so let's get right into a bunch of stuff. First and foremost, the offense. I think we have to get right into the offense for Green Bay and talk about exactly what you saw in this one, and that was the man that everybody kept telling me. How many times did you hear this? Aaron Rodgers is losing it. Aaron Rodgers has lost it. Aaron Rodgers, he's really lost a step. It's not the same Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron heard that all offseason, and he got mighty pissed about it. Aaron Rodgers, on the day, 32 of 44 for 364 and 4 scores. Now, it didn't start out with Aaron looking so great and this offense humming along. I mean, overall, I think when the Packers had those empty trips into the red zone in the first half, I think if you're a Green Bay Packers fan realistically looking at this, you thought, oh, boy, is this going to be the headache? Is this going to be a problem for this team? As they were able to kick a couple of field goals and on a 4th and goal from the 6-inch line or whatever, they were unable to punch it in. I think you were getting a little bit worried. I know you were getting worried because I saw you on my timeline. I saw you on Twitter. I saw you on Facebook. I saw the complaints about, well, they picked up right where they left off last time, didn't they? And boy, it's the same old Packers and blah, 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 blah. Not necessarily, my friends, because this Packers team, all of a sudden, I'm not sure what it was, but somebody woke them up. Now, before I go too far, I have to tell you that first and foremost, whatever happens in the first month of the NFL season, if you're a Packers fan and you're like me and you're sitting on cloud nine and you're talking about Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and we can talk about MVS coming up later on and Alan Lazard and how the offense looks so much better in one game than it did for most of last year because it's now year 2 under Matt LaFleur and DeGuara this and all these players, right? Like everybody's excited after week number 1, game number 1, when your team goes on the road to a rival and wins. And again, I think the idea of the home field advantage is a little bit different this year with the lack of fans. And I'm going to talk about that coming up in just a second. But don't get too excited. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. Especially if you're a Vikings fan and you happen to be watching this. Hello, I'm sorry, condolences, cheers, have yourself a beverage. Elsewhere in the NFC North, a huge lead evaporated. Is it probably the same old Lions? Yeah, it probably is. But remember, there was no preseason whatsoever. Which means there's a lot of guys out there that got 0 reps and new concepts and everything like that. So while we're all on cloud 9 for the Green Bay Packers right now, I'm not the downer. I'm not Debbie Downering anything. I just want to tell you, chill out. Okay? Chill out. I'm not trying to be a downer. I'm just telling you right now, chill out. Because every team will probably look very different 3 weeks from now. When we get into October, that's when you're really going to start to see things for what they are. I mean, remember, the New England Patriots last year were 6-0. But they were a shell of themselves by the time we got to November and December. You look back at who they played, it was an inflated record based because most of the AFC East is trash. You look at last year's Kansas City Chiefs. Their defense was horrendous, worse than the previous couple of seasons, but they had a new defensive coordinator, and it takes a little bit of time. So all of these things, and by the way, by the end of the year, the Chiefs had one of the best turnover-prone defenses. They did enough to get off the field often enough, obviously, especially against San Francisco in the Super Bowl. So whatever you see in September, most years, but especially this year, if you're looking at your team thinking, we suck, and it's, time is it right now? 3:50 Eastern time in the Central, 3:50 Central time. Relax, your team probably will improve because that's what happens when you get more reps, especially if you have young guys playing at key positions. I mean, no Stephon Diggs was pretty evident. Not that Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but no Stephon Diggs really showed today. They didn't have very many big play opportunities. The Vikings didn't have, and it really did show. They've got the Beasley kid and whatever, but losing Stephon Diggs, that offense is going to take a little while to figure out who can actually stretch the field. I love Adam Thielen, but he's not your huge play guy. That's what Stephon Diggs so well was get separation, get down the field. He might only get you 4 catches in a game, but he's going to have 122 total receiving yards and probably a score or two. He's in Buffalo now. And you know what? He's sucking on my fantasy team. But we'll get to that later on because I know what you want to hear about is my fantasy football team. But on the flip side of that, what was so impressive about Green Bay today was the fact that there was no preseason. There were a lot of young guys who needed to get a lot of reps and will need to get a lot of reps, and the offense still looked great. At times, the defense looked real good. At times, the defense looked like Swiss cheese. But offensively, year 2. And I said this all summer when we were doing Packers stuff on the podcast. Go back, check it out, subscribe, please. Need you on Spotify and Apple and Google, wherever you get your podcast. Find Wickett on Wisconsin. But I said over and over, Aaron Rodgers is still a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. I still believe that. I don't know if he's going to throw for, checks notes, 364, 4 scores, not get sacked, and have no turnovers every game. But Aaron Rodgers is definitely still a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. And based on what this could mean for the rest of the year and some of these other guys I'm going to talk about here, he might be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. That could actually be a thing. He might be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL after you get to your Mahomes and your Russell Wilson and your Lamar and whoever else you want to put right up there. You're probably going to have to include Aaron Rodgers in that conversation if today was any indicator against Minnesota. I think I saw the stat. He had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games combined. He had 4 touchdowns today. Aaron can still throw it. A couple of just ridiculous throws to Allen Lazard late. You know, he went to his guy, Davante Adams, over and over and over again. 14 catches, 16 or 17 targets, but 14 catches for $156, 2 touchdowns for Davante Adams. And if Aaron wanted to go to him 25 times today, Minnesota couldn't do anything about it. He wanted to spread the ball around, and he did. He hit 7 or 8 different guys with passes today. But Davante continues to prove that he needs to be in that conversation when you talk about the best wide receiver in the National Football League. Whoever is your number 1 guy, if you're a Michael Thomas guy or you're a Mike Evans guy or a DeAndre Hopkins guy, whoever your guy is, you have to start including, I mean, I do, you probably do because you're a Packers fan, you have to start including Davante Adams in that conversation. Davante was fantastic today. Aaron made some great throws to him, and he made 2 unbelievable throws late to Lazard, as I mentioned. The one where Lazard caught it in the middle of the field, it was great because he had a linebacker on him. He knew it immediately on the left side, put his hand up right away. And what happened? Ball dropped right into his hands. He stumbled and fell. Should have been a score. And then 2 plays later, it was the touchdown throw, which was one of the most ridiculous throws that you're going to see from Rodgers. Coverage was already tight, rolling to the right. Lazard saw it, and just a little bit of chemistry there, which is great to see. You know what a big fan of Allen Lazard, Aaron Rodgers, is. But it was really, really neat to see that he just stuck with him. Lazard burst past the defender who had fallen to the ground, and Aaron thread the needle at the sideline. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that the great version of Aaron Rodgers was able to do, so much in the last 16 years. And to see him be able to do it again today makes you realize that there have been a lot of things that have hindered his ability. Part of it on him, obviously. Can he make some of these throws that he missed a lot last year? He was fantastic today, and he hit Lazard. And how about Aaron Jones? I mean, not stellar numbers, 16 for 66, also caught 4 passes for 10 more yards, so 20 touches, 76 yards for Aaron Jones. I'm just telling you, this offense in round 2 under Matt LaFleur, I was blown away by it. Now, I know that Minnesota had some guys out. Everybody has guys out. I'm not going to say, well, we'll see what they do when they play San Francisco. But I do want to see what they do when they play San Francisco. I think it's an important part. I think it's an important piece to the story. I think you're probably right. If you want to wait and see what they do against San Francisco, a team that has a better pass rush. We know Ngakoue was out in this one. Hunter didn't play great. I mean, there were some guys in this that were missing from that Minnesota pass rush. I don't care. Going on the road week 1 and for the offense to put up 500 yards, 5 bills in this game. I'm taking that. 522 for the Green Bay Packer offense. Yeah, I'm cool on that. I'm fine with that. Devontae, MVS, we'll talk about him here in a second. DeGuara Jones, Irvin, Lazard, all caught balls from Aaron Rodgers today. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, MVS. We got to talk about MVS, don't we? Boy, what a Jekyll and Hyde game for MVS. Big play came on, the classic Aaron Rodgers draw him off sides cadence. MVS down the right side. 12 hits him. He goes up. He fights for the ball. Comes down with it and scores. About 25 minutes later, all the MVS stock that Marquez Valdes-Scantling had built up with Packers fans, and you saw it on Twitter, it was about, well, maybe they didn't need to draft a wide receiver, and maybe they don't need Devin Funchess, and maybe this really is the guy. And then he dropped a pass that would have extended a drive over the middle on a slant route. Bottom dropped out. The bottom of the stock dropped out faster than the ball dropped to the turf for Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And you knew what was going to happen. You knew Aaron was going to go back to MVS, and he did. And it was just another example of why I believe Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. Tosses the ball, Valdes-Scantling. Ball hits him in the hands. It's probably a 35-yard gain, and he dropped it. Wide open, and he dropped it. And I don't know at that point if I felt like Aaron was ever going to go back to Valdes-Scantling ever again. Eventually he did on a long pass down the field, and Valdes-Scantling caught it. 4 for 96 and a touchdown for MVS. His stock is kind of fluctuating, I guess, with Packers fans, and we'll know in week 2 what the stock is, what the relationship is like this week between Aaron and MVS in that room. He's got confidence in him, or he has had confidence in him. We'll see if he has confidence in him going forward. On the other side of the ball, the big note, too, on the offense, a couple of injuries. I think Dillon banged up a calf. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And Lane Taylor left with a knee injury. That could be huge. They're already down a couple of pieces of the offensive line. Losing Lane Taylor would be devastating. Absolutely devastating if that were to happen. Now on to the defense. If I would have been smart, I would have screenshotted everybody's takes on, well, defense can't stop the run, just like last year. If I should have done that. You know what I mean? Like everybody who was telling me about on social media about how the defense looks just as bad. And no matter what was going to happen in this game, I'm telling you right now, if Aaron looked like crap and the defense looked like crap and they got beat, I was not going to be one of those people that was just doom and gloom for the Green Bay Packers, because I know it's week 1 with no preseason. Hell, week 1 to me during a regular season is just an extended pregame or a preseason game, because usually the starters only play, like 12 snaps or whatever, the guys that matter. So they're still shaking the rust off, getting things figured out. The defense didn't look good on that first drive by Minnesota. Dalvin Cook just marched right down the field. I don't know why teams haven't figured this out, that Green Bay doesn't stop the run. San Francisco figured it out in the NFC Championship game and ran the ball right down Green Bay's face. They punched him in the mouth over and over and over and over and over. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo threw 10 passes in that game. Minnesota, when they played San Francisco last year, For some reason, they stopped giving the ball to Dalvin Cook. I know San Francisco can stop the run, but you don't not give the ball to maybe the best running back in the National Football League. I don't understand that. They did it again today to Green Bay. They stopped giving the ball to Dalvin Cook, and they wanted to put the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands. And I will take that every day of the week. As a Green Bay Packers fan, you should want that as well. Go up against Kirk Cousins. $90 million, $100 million guaranteed. Give him 4 more years. 4 more years. 4 more years. I am so in favor of that. I would love to see 4 more years of Kirk Cousins. That would be great. Lifetime contract. Let him play till he wants to quit. Or at least till the Green Bay Packers pick him up and carry him off the field. Kirk Cousins today. Pull up his stats for you. 19 of 25, 259, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. I think up until the very last drive, of the first half, I believe he had completed 2 passes. So he either had 3 or 4 completions in the first half. Now, I know a lot of that has to do with Green Bay controlling the ball, controlling the clock, possessing the ball, and keeping it out of their hands. But my, oh my, man, that Viking offense, they do miss Stephon Diggs. And for some reason, I know they got a new offensive coordinator in there. Stefanski is, where's he at? Cleveland or wherever the hell he went? Dalvin Cook, 12 carries, 50 yards. He just signed that mega contract extension yesterday. And how do they reward him? They gave him the ball 12 times. He caught 1 pass. 13 touches for your franchise running back. A signing the Vikings will regret. 13 touches for Dalvin Cook. I mean, say what you want. Rank your running backs. Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook. Who do you have at 1? Who do you have at 2? Who do you in that matchup? All right. Aaron Jones got 20 touches. Dalvin Cook got 13 total touches in this game. I realized they were playing from behind a lot and had to throw the ball, but I don't understand why because especially, and the big news on defense was the injury to Kenny Clark, and we'll see if Kenny Clark can go. I have no information for you right now. When I find it, I'll have it on the podcast page. I'll have it up on Twitter. But when Kenny Clark went down, it was like when Giannis wasn't there for the Bucks, and Spoelstra said, we're going to attack the middle. Well, Minnesota, at times, when Kenny Clark went out, said, all right, you've got no stand-up nose tackle. You got no nose tackle in there. Zadarius Smith is standing up over center. We're going to pound the middle. And it worked. I would have just kept doing that the entire time, even when Kenny Clark is in there, because Green Bay has not been one of those teams that you say, boy, that Packer defense, they really stuffed the run. Because they don't really stuff the run. What they do is defend the pass well. They have guys that can get after the quarterback. Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith. Rashawn Gary played very well today. People were pretty impressed if you watch Rashawn Gary, because if teams are going to keep an eye on the Smith brothers, that opens the door for Gary, or vice versa. If you pick a Smith and Gary, then the other Smith is going to get you. I was really impressed with the way Rashawn Gary played in this football game today. And in the secondary, watch out for Jair Alexander to be in the conversation as the best defensive back in the National Football League. I don't think he's there right now, but he is moving his way up. He is a Pro Bowler. That guy makes plays. That guy is active all over the field. I'm a huge Jair Alexander fan. I think that dude is going to be the real deal, the truth for the Green Bay Packers. So what an effort by Green Bay in week 1. They win 43-34. They go to Minnesota. Can we talk about home field advantage here for just a quick second? Throw that out the window. If teams are going to continue to play with no fans, and this is the way that the NFL is going to be for however long. I know Arrowhead and Jacksonville, I think, are the 2 stadiums that are allowing it. If this is the way it's going to be, I really didn't miss fans other than on a couple of 4th down plays. Like, that to me was the only time I actually really did miss hearing crowd noise in the game. Other than that, kind of like with the NBA, kind of like with Major League Baseball, like, I just love the game. I love the pregame. I love everything I watched in the game. It was great to get football back. And frankly, I didn't miss the fans. And if that's going to be what this goes, how this happens, boy, oh boy, does that play into the Green Bay Packers' favor. Because how strange was it in one of the loudest stadiums? I mean, Minnesota's always had one of the loudest stadiums. Whether it was the Dome or the new stadium, it's always so loud. And Aaron and everybody has to do the, silent counts and signals and everything because it's just so dang loud in there. How strange was it to see Aaron drawing guys offside all game long in their gym? Best in the business at doing it. Nobody does it better than Aaron Rodgers, even at this stage in the game when people said he's done and losing it and yada, yada, yada. But how cool was it to see it happen to the Vikings in the Vikings building? I thought that was absolutely awesome. And if that's going to be the case, whether they go to Ford Field, they go to Soldier Field, whatever the case is, if there's going to be no fans, that plays into that squashes the home field advantage. Just like the bubble in the NBA squashes home field advantage because home teams feed off that energy. So I don't and I don't believe that the Packers will have their normal home field advantage when they host Minnesota or host Chicago or host whomever is on their schedule. I think that plays against Green Bay. But I think when you have a veteran quarterback, it definitely helps when you have you're in your familiar surroundings. And your team knows to be listening for that cadence just because they're going to practice against it all the time. I don't know if people are going to draw Packers defenders off like Aaron is going to draw the opposition off in their building. But man, oh man, I think no fans really levels the playing field of going to some of the loudest buildings or wherever. And like I said, I think it reduces the Lambeau mystique a little bit. And we'll see what happens if by the time we get to December and the tundra is frozen and Lambeau is covered in snow, if there are any fans. It will be really eerie and weird and cold and creepy almost to watch some of those games at Lambeau at night in the snow with no fans. Like, think about that. That, to me, is really, really cool. I think it's going to be wild. I really, really do. I don't think I missed on anything else. If I did, hit me up in the comments on Twitter, on the podcast page. I got my YouTube channel. Just search for me, Mike Wickett. It is there, the podcast. I'd love for you to subscribe. Tell a Wisconsin sports fan we're going to be doing these after every single Packers game, an instant reaction podcast, and then the weekly podcast. And when news breaks, hell, it feels like I'm doing these daily now after the Bucks played in the playoffs. So we'll try to get as many of these on as we can. I would really appreciate you if you would subscribe if it's on Apple or Spotify or Google Podcasts or whatever podcast service that you do listen to or subscribe to. So just search that Wickett on Wisconsin, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. One more note, I am up for an award. This podcast is up for Best Sports Podcast and Best New Podcast for the Wisconsin Podcast Association Awards. Go to Wisconsin Podcast. That's wisconsinpodcast.com. Find me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Insta. I got the link as well. And vote for this podcast, please, for Best Sports Podcast. Again, go to wisconsinpodcast.com. Also for Best New Podcast. I'd appreciate that so very much. Thank you very much for checking out this episode of Wickett on Wisconsin. Packers win 43-34. Up next, the Lions. Is that game at home or is that game at Lambeau Field? I'm going to make sure I get this right. That's at Lambeau. All right, next week, noon game, next Sunday. Packers are a 6-point favorite as of right now. The Lions had a double-digit lead and watched it evaporate. Same old Lions. Although they had a chance to win, rookie running back DeAndre Swift dropped that touchdown, I should say, that would have put Detroit back on top. But SOL, same old Lions. They are going to be angry when they come to Lambeau. We will be right back here coming up next week. I'll have an instant reaction podcast to that. Again, this has been Wickett on Wisconsin. I'm Mike Wickett. Thank you so much for watching. I truly do appreciate it. We'll do it again. As always, go Brewers, go Bucks, and go Pack Go.
Thanks for listening to Wickett on Wisconsin. If you have any feedback or you want to reach out to the show, you can find me on Facebook, Mike Wickett Podcasts, or you can email MikeWickettPodcasts@gmail.com. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter @Mike Wickett. Thanks to Silverman Sound Studios for providing the music for today's show. And you can find us anywhere you find your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Until next week, thanks for listening to Wickett on Wisconsin.